Well, there we go. Good morning, everybody, and welcome to TR Live. And as you can see, we've got Gareth Cliff, and then, of course, we've got the legendary Joe Emilio. By the way, Joe, congratulations on
Award winning, yeah.
award-winning documentarian, if that is even the correct term. I don't know. So let's just start there quickly. How did this take place? I want to know more about this, and why isn't mainstream media crowing about this massive achievement?
Yeah, funny you should mention that. Well, let me start with saying it's for anybody that makes a film and wants to enter festivals, one of the easiest ways to do it is to go on Filmway, freefilmway.com, and it's basically the encyclopedia, I guess you could say, like what's it called, a Gumtree for festivals. So basically any festival in the world, whether it's in Australia, America, even local festivals are listed on there, film festivals, and they have their T's and C's, and it's very easy to submit. They make it super easy. You just say submit. Some have costs and some don't. And I entered quite a few. Like I would say, I think the last time I checked, my submissions were around 28 to 30. And, you know, there were a lot of festivals that didn't accept the documentary for whatever reason. There's many reasons why a festival wouldn't accept the documentary. Later on, after I read some of the T's and C's, I saw that some countries want just like their own country's documentarians in the festival. So I was like, okay, that's fine. Or maybe I was over time and, you know, it was my fault for not reading the full T's and C's. But anyway, so one of the festivals I entered was Documentaries Without Borders Film Festival. And I got a notification last year that I'd been accepted in the festival. And they had their award thing 2 weeks ago. And I was notified that I won exceptional merit, which basically means that I've created something with very little resources on an exceptional level. And it was really awesome to get the news, and I got the certificates behind me there, winning certificate. And what's also awesome is this: many festivals are, well, some work with IMDb. This is one of them. And so my award and documentary are now listed on IMDb, which for me personally is a huge achievement. As a little boy back in 2016, not even 2016, 2000, like in the early 2000s, dreaming of being on IMDb is a small win for me, but it's really awesome. So I'm super excited about it. But you speak to the mainstream media not talking about it. Funny enough, the mainstream media did talk about my documentary. What's interesting is the local circuit of film festivals so far have denied even letting it being seen. And I haven't. I'll give you a good example. The South African Independent Film Festival, which is one of the biggest independent film festivals in South Africa, and it thrives off of this kind of stuff. After all, it's the Independent Film Festival, for crying out loud, didn't let my documentary in. And I went to see the T's and C's. Sometimes they say, oh, if your documentary's already available to the public, we don't want to see it, like, or it won't be accepted. The Sundance Film Festival is like that. If it's already available to the public or it's already been premiered on any platform, they won't accept it because they kind of want to like keep it secret, or not secret, but it's like a process. Because you might get, Netflix might pick it up and then it gets on Netflix, for example. So that's fine. But there was no kinds of T's and C's like that with the South African Film Festival. It just said any film documentary with this length, blah, blah. I met all the requirements. So I emailed them. I said, okay, well, what gives? What did I do wrong? And they didn't reply. You know, I wasn't complaining in the email. I wasn't like, oh, how dare you not? You know, I was like genuinely asking, was my submission wrong? Did I submit it wrong? Is there wrong artwork? Is, you know, what, could you give me any kind of sign or explanation as to why, so that I don't make the same mistake if I make another documentary or film? You know, I won't make the same mistake again. That's genuinely what I was asking, and haven't heard anything. No response, nothing. And they're not the only ones. There are two other festivals that they didn't even allow the documentary in. They just, and I emailed them too, and no response.
So exclusive that they don't even want to respond. That's how exclusive the club is. Anyway, Gareth, how are you doing? And when are you appearing on TV again?
What must I be on TV for? Do people still watch like scheduled television? I'm not being
Yeah.
sarcastic here, and I'm certainly
Yeah.
not negating the hard work that TV people do. But is there anybody who sets their alarm to watch a show like when we were kids, and you'd only get your favorite cartoon on a Tuesday and a Thursday at like 3:15 p.m. It doesn't
Mm,
work like that anymore, and it's amazing to me. I know they're all struggling. Multi-choice, of course, is completely frozen because Canal Plus has told them they can't
Canal.
spend any more money. Um,
Mm,
ENCA seems to be, I don't know, they don't seem to be making money out of their actual media. So I wonder where they are making money. And SABC, all of us on this call, including everyone in the comments section, I see common sense there saying all politicians should be sent to jail. Everybody on this call has more money than the SABC at the moment. So what TV? You know, what TV?
I know
Yeah.
it's quite insane, but yeah. So it all just leads to, I think, the fact that South Africa is not moving at the pace that the rest of the world is moving. I know that Showmax attempted that, and they did relatively well, but we're not keeping on pace. But anyway, with that being
Aren't they
said,
shutting down?
yeah.
I
Well,
No,
saw
it's
an
completely
article that
shut
they
now,
were
down.
yeah.
shutting down.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah.
it's
Yes.
And I,
totally.
I
That's
truly
simple
believe
and
that it was
nice.
a good streaming service. If you look
Yeah,
at
it
the
wasn't bad.
original
Let
South
me tell you
African
something.
documentaries.
I, in defense of multi-choice, who I've had my fights with in the past, and I've worked with very happily as well, I have to say that SuperSport is the crown jewel in
Mm.
multi-choice's arsenal. If there is a sports channel, if there is a live sports broadcast channel anywhere in the world that even comes close to what SuperSport can do, I'll be surprised, because they are the
Mm,
best in the business and they deserve all the credit for that. So whatever Canal Plus do, and I wish them well, I think they've bought a lot of really incredible assets and a lot of really shitty ones at the same time, and maybe they're busy sorting the wheat from the chaff at the moment. But I think if they fiddle with SuperSport, they'll be making a terrible mistake, because that's something that
mm.
really does make it worthwhile for sports fans all over the world.
Mm, fully agree. All right, so I think let's get into the topics for today. As we know, tomorrow the petrol price is going to go up exponentially in South Africa. And I just saw that the government is announcing that they are going to reduce the fuel levy by 3 Rand to assist the South African motorists and the economy, which, is something I made a video about this morning, saying that they haven't released any statements on doing that. But I believe it's about a 50% reduction of the fuel levy. But this speaks to the broader issue of what is currently going on in Iran, because the fuel increases is directly related to the war that the US Israel has with Iran. And I would just like to get your feedback on how it started off by not going to be an extended war, and it's not going to be a long war, and now it seems that there are troops that are landing on the ground in Iran. So I'd like to get your take on this. Let's start with Gareth, and then we can go to Joe.
All right. Well, I do have to say that with all the kindness I can muster, I'm talking especially to Gen Z, Gen Alpha, and even the millennials here, and that probably includes you two. You guys have no idea of anything but consumer culture, instant gratification. Everything must be delivered as promised within 15 minutes, or else we're going to be unhappy. And wars just don't work that way. There has not been an armistice declared since the Japanese climbed on board an aircraft carrier in 1945 and said, all right, cool, we give up. Every other war since then has been a long, protracted, drawn out thing that either fizzles out or escalates or goes in ups and downs or turns into sectarian and tribal violence, political conflicts within that country. Wars are not tidy things. And we're only 28 days, count them, 28 days into this war in Iran. And people are already saying, oh my God, it's a forever war. I'm sorry, this is like somebody going, are we there yet? Are we there yet? Are we there yet? In their parents' car on the way to a holiday when they're 5 years old. People have to develop some understanding of history and some understanding of conflict in order to make a credible claim that this is a forever war. It's just not true. It has been, and to my mind, every bit of information that I can research on this on the internet and from various news sources, the mainstream media included, it is not going badly. It is going exceedingly well. It has been strategic, targeted, surgical to the nth degree. They've taken out the A, B, C, and D levels of control in the Iranian regime. So for anyone to claim, oh, this is a disaster, it's already spinning out of control. The US don't know what they're doing. Israel don't know what they're doing. They've got themselves involved in something that's hugely expensive. It's fraught. It's complicated. Iran is winning. I mean, I've heard this from people. Iran is winning seems to be the dumbest thing that I've seen on the internet in the last 10 days, because it's actually something some people are saying. I know that there are lots of people in the world who want that to be true. They are the kind of people who live in fantasy rather than reality. They're the kind of people who believe men can become women and women can become men. They also believe that being gay in the Middle East would get you welcomed with open arms into places like Syria and Oman and Lebanon and Iran. And it's not true. And this is not true either. This is a 28-day, so far, war. It has been enormously successful. Iran has no control over its airspace. It has limited control over the sea. There is obviously this concern around the Straits of Hormuz, which is about the reason that we are now paying more at the petrol pump. And I understand that. But these are the natural consequences of conflict. And for anybody to claim that this is somehow a nefarious and harebrained scheme that has gone completely wrong, they're clearly not listening to the people who are at the nexus of all of this, the Pete Hegseths, the Marco Rubios. These are not stupid people who are just politicians who took over yesterday and don't understand how these things take place. And I'm terribly sorry, I don't want to hear from American women in Congress who've never put on boots, handled a weapon, telling me about forever wars. I just don't need to hear it. It's like, I don't want to express an opinion about how a dishwasher works because I don't know how. And you got to stay in your lane on this one. There are people whose lives are devoted to studying military engagements, wars, conflict situations, logistics, operations. They will tell you almost to a man that this is exceedingly well resourced, prepared, resolved, and it's going very much according to plan. So I know people hate Trump and I know people hate Israel, and for various reasons they are entitled to those opinions. But you cannot force your nonsense down the throats of people who are actually reading the facts and listening to the facts and realizing that this is the end of the Iranian regime. There is no return for them. What comes next, of course, it's going to be unpredictable. But please stop with this forever war stuff. It makes you sound stupid.
Added to that, before I get to Joe, what I find problematic is, I mean, I think it was yesterday or over the weekend, there was this No Kings rally in the United States, and the numbers that they're saying it's 8 million. I find it so insulting to the intelligence of your average citizen that they have a No Kings rally, but they support Iran. That's a dictatorship. And the same with Venezuela. And
how dare
then
you
if
ask
you
for
look,
logic? What's
yeah,
wrong with you? How dare you ask for reasonable, rational, logical, sensible points of view here? Don't you understand these
yeah.
people like dressing up and making a noise?
Mm.
Don't you get it?
Because everybody that attended the No Kings rally, if you listen to what they had to say, they are in support of ending the Iranian war, saying that we need to leave them and let them be. But then doesn't that go against the fact that we need to look at what the people of Iran wants, which is clearly to get rid of this dictatorship? And then the same with Venezuela. So once again, the fact is everybody wants to talk about that school that was bombed by Israel and the US, according to many media outlets. And of course, I believe that everybody thinks that that is unjust and it rightfully should be condemned. But
Hang
why
on,
are people
Ronaldo.
then turning a blind?
Do you or anyone else genuinely believe that it was Israel or America's prime ambition to bomb a school of girls?
Of
Does
course not.
anyone in the
Of course,
world believe that?
of course not. Well, I don't. But unfortunately, that is used. But my point is, even though, let's say that that is their trump card, excuse the pun, then what do they have to say about the 30,000 people, at least 30,000 people that were brutally killed by that regime? Why is there no protest against that? Why is the protest against the United States wanting to take decisive action against a regime that has called for the killing of the United States for Europe, and said that, they want to get rid of the infidels time and time again? Joe, let me pass it off to you.
Yeah, look, I mean, there's so much to unpack here, to be honest. I mean, you started with the whole petrol thing. 3 Rand is not going to help when it goes up to 30 Rand. Like it's still going to hurt us. And we all know that whether this goes up by another 10 Rand, 6 Rand, 5 Rand, doesn't matter. Everything else goes up. And then the thing is, when the petrol goes down, nothing goes down again, right? Food doesn't just decrease in price or other necessities that we need in our daily lives. So that's the first thing I wanted to say on that. Like this whole thing of like the government trying to look nice and reduce by 3 Rand, to me is laughable. It's like, no, reduce it by like 9 Rand. Then I'll give you some praise. 3 Rand is a slap in the face, in my honest opinion, when it's projected to go up by 6 Rand or 7 Rand or however much it's projected to go up by. That's number one. Number two, speaking about Trump, everything that Gareth said is correct. If you look at history, there's no war that has lasted for like whatever, a month or whatever. And even though Trump, when he first started this whole thing, he said he wanted it to be quick. He said he wanted it to be done quickly and stuff like that. They got their objectives done quite quickly. They killed pretty much almost every evil person that's part of that regime in quite a significant amount of time. Precisely, efficiently, surgically, as Gareth said. I think even if, and I've seen a lot of people say this, I think even if Trump cured cancer, there would still be a problem. There would the left would just be like, yeah, but he's using the wrong medicine to do it, or some weird. There is something seriously wrong with the left, and I showed some images just now of from this article of this Kings of or Against King March, whatever it's called, and you can see these are people that are brainwashed by the left media. It is so evident. I don't know if you guys
By
saw
the way,
that viral video.
it's also a lot of very elderly people. I mean, a lot of these people are in their 70s, and frankly, they should be in a home. I see a lot of them dressing up. The one chick was dressed as a banana, and she's standing there. They interview her. Now, this is the best thing, Joe. I'm sorry to interrupt you, but it's worth noticing that anyone who asks them a question never gets an answer. They either get this kind of, they go, well, why are you worried? Why are you out here? They go, well, I'm here protesting dictatorship and authoritarianism. You say, okay, so what's been, I mean, it's ironic that you can protest authoritarianism and you can say that the president is a pedophile and all of that stuff, and you don't get arrested. No one got arrested. But they're out there and they believe that they're put upon. It's the victim Olympics all over again. So they go, what rights are being taken away? And then these people go, it's impossible for black people to vote now that they want to bring the SAVE Act in, because, black people have never been able to get IDs or passports or any form of photo identification, so they could go and do things at the DMV, for example. It's such patronizing, old school left-wing nonsense, which is why it's mostly old white people. And frankly, it's embarrassing. I mean, they're demented. These are people who clearly don't have family or friends, and their life, their world, their religion becomes their activism, their politics. And hating Trump is such a central tent peg of that if Trump did cure cancer tomorrow, they wouldn't be able to admit it. They'd say, oh, well, you know, he didn't cure all the cancers.
he only cured the racist ones, you know.
No. And racism is the ideological gold mine for them, because, you know, there was one white woman I saw being interviewed yesterday on the internet. It's on Instagram, one of the accounts I follow, and this guy says to her, well, have you noticed the demographics here? It's all like old white people. And she goes, yes, but you know, it's unsafe for black people, so we are here to stand in for them. Like, she's appointed herself. It's this patronizing white thing of white liberals that they like, I stand for black people. Meanwhile, no black people asked them to. No black people voted for them. No black people even know they exist, but they're like, I'll be your knight in shining armor. And black people are like,
isn't it the soft bigotry thing?
Man, I didn't ask for you.
Yeah. The actual racism actually stems from that. Is like that you think that you need to speak on behalf of another race because you know better.
It's soft bigotry of low expectations or something like that. But yeah, like the clip I was talking about that went kind of viral was an Iranian at this protest. You know, Palestinian flags being flown and all that stuff. And this, you can see, there's a liberal old lady, it's like also old lady, and she's like, this Iranian woman is saying, like, how are you saying that Trump is evil when he attacked a regime where I am a refugee here in America because of that regime? I am not allowed to do things as a woman because of that regime. And she kept listing all the things that this regime has done to not just her but her people. And you should, the look on this woman's face was brilliant, because she was absolutely godsmacked. She had nothing to say, because in her wokey mind, if she does argue a woman who is from Iran, it goes against that wokey ideology, because then you're discrediting her lived experience.
I don't want to accuse you of the same thing I accuse white liberals of when they stand up for black people without being asked to. But you're complicating this. It's not that These are people who want unearned virtue points. They're performing. That's all they're doing. They're getting in front of cameras. They're getting there with their 2-3 friends from the old age home, and they're making a noise, and they're wearing funny makeup. I mean, there was a man wearing orange lipstick and he had blue hair, and he's in his 60s. And I thought to myself, this guy doesn't know any of the questions or answers that you've just explained or tried to put into your understanding of the situation. He doesn't know the difference between fascism, authoritarianism, totalitarian liberalism. He doesn't understand any of that, and he doesn't want to. For him, it is all a performance. He wants to seem like the good guy. He wants to be on the right side of history, and he believes the best way he can put himself to use is to hit the streets and to complain about Donald Trump, because Donald Trump is mean and he's waging wars, and that's mean, and you must always be for the underdog, and all the things he's doing is just mean. It's nasty and horrible, and I'm not mean like that. I'm a good person. That's why I wear makeup and a tutu, and that's why I talk about Kamala Harris would have made a better president and Hillary Clinton would have made a better president. Do me a favor. Don't dig too deep here. None of this is rocket science. These are stupid people who've never ever read a long book, and they're trying to seem virtuous by their attendance at a ridiculous rally like this. And they've made paper mache, like school kids on show and tell day. They've made paper mache mascots, and they're wearing t-shirts with offensive words on them, and they're protesting and they're dressing up, and it's all a big show.
But look how they put Adolf with Trump, right? Like, do you guys know that Hitler was a really evil man that was like killing Jews in the millions?
I didn't. No, I've never studied anything. I've never studied anything but World War II. So all I know is Hitler is bad. Trump is bad, therefore Hitler is bad, therefore they're the same.
Yeah, I mean, it's reached the point of absurdity, and of course, because of the anti-Israel slant by, I would say, the woke leftists and the leftists in the United States. I see that that Israel is now proposing a first reading of a bill for a death penalty for people that it deems terrorists. And the very first article that I saw on this is that they led with Israel wants the death penalty for only one race or one ethnicity. That is the headline that mainstream media got out of Israel, saying that we want the death penalty as the standard for terrorists. Now, just a quick question. Does that media company then assume that terrorists is linked to only one ethnicity with them making that conclusion? What is your take on this? Let's start with Gareth again and then Joe.
Well, they must be racist. The media who claim this must be deeply prejudiced because they assume that these labels include people of only a certain ethnicity, a certain background, a certain religion. So they are guilty of the thing that they always are accusing everybody else of, which is not a surprise. Psychologists refer to this as projection. The thing that you are most guilty of, you accuse everyone else of all the time. That's a kind of psychosis that's happening here. So we can see it revealed in its plainest form. I'm always amazed at how people will do the most extraordinary mental gymnastics in order to accuse Israel of being the bad guy. And Israel's never allowed to win a war. Israel's never allowed to do anything good because, but what about this? They don't do that right. Israel's the only democracy in the region. It is the only country in which there are rights for, first of all, women, universal rights for men and women that are the same, true equality. Other sexual orientations acceptable only in Israel, nowhere else. Freedom of speech, freedom of movement, and they try their best. The Israeli government tries their absolute best to keep their people as safe as possible, despite constant threats over 50 years from every other country in the neighborhood. And now Europeans. It's just amazing to me. I think it must prove what Christopher Hitchens said years ago about anti-Semitism, is that it is the first real kind of bigotry, and all other bigotry developed from anti-Semitism. And it's amazing how people keep going back to that poisonous well to drink from, time and time again. It's got to be the Jews. The Jews have got to be the bad guy. They're the boogeyman. They're the monster under the bed. And if you can't blame the Jews, well, then you'd have to take responsibility for your own misfortunes and shortcomings. And imagine that. Imagine people actually had to take serious stock of their own position and place in the world and take responsibility for their own disasters. What a mess that would be. Better to blame the Jews.
So I'll just jump in here quick. Sorry, Joe, I always do this, but this is what happens when you give a podcaster the opportunity to host a show. How many Jews live in Palestine? How many Jews live in Iran versus
First of all,
how
there's no such
many
place as Palestine?
Okay, we can debate that, but my point is there's zero, right? But yet you have Muslims that live in Palestine, in Israel, and there is no animosity. The point that I'm making
I have to jump off in a minute. I'm sorry, Ronaldo, but I just want to make this point. And people accuse me of being in the pay of the Jews, which is the other thing that's just a trope, a disgusting anti-Semitic.
Did you get your check this month? I'm still waiting for mine.
I've never been paid by the Jews. And let me tell you something else. There are only 12.5 million people who are ethnically, culturally, or religiously Jewish in the world. It's a wide bracket of generalization and a very small number of people. And I have to say, the outsized attention and hatred that they get from the millions and millions of other people who just seem perpetually obsessed with them tells you that they should be God's chosen people and that they're winning. Otherwise, why would they get that attention? And I'm going to end on that. I'm afraid I've got to jump off. I hate dropping you guys in the shit. I know it's going to be so easy to do this without me, but what are you going to do? I mean,
no, it's always a pleasure having you, Gareth.
Thanks,
let's see,
Gareth. Appreciate it.
17. All right. Thanks,
So,
Gareth.
Joe, I'm just going to go to you on this then with regards to the death penalty that is now placed in for terrorists. What is your take on it? I mean, for me, if you consider the fact that since 2005, over 20,000 rockets have been launched from Palestinian territory into Israel, not knowing if it's going to hit a school, a church, or a hospital, and nobody says anything about that. And now that they want to actually implement serious consequences for anybody that attacks Israel, now people are up in, like, throwing their hands up in the air saying, oh, look, you racists, because you only want to attack people of color. How does that make any sense?
Well, before I get into that, let me first bring on Matthew Cohen, who's also been able to join us. So now we are 3 again. Matthew Cohen, thank you so much for popping in. We'll get to you in a moment,
Thanks,
I'm sure. Okay, first let me say this. The mainstream media should be ashamed, because they are no longer doing what they are supposed to be doing, which is journalism. They are trying to make everybody look at certain stories through a specific headset or goggles. And I mean, this goes to what Gareth is also saying. Like, how can you defend a terrorist? All right. I'm not saying that all Palestinians are terrorists. I'm not saying that all Muslims are terrorists. I'm not saying that at all. But if someone has been jailed and it's been proven that that person was responsible for a terrorist attack beyond a shadow of a doubt, and now the death penalty is a possibility, that you get the death penalty for terrorism, in my opinion, you should be so lucky, because you took it upon yourself, for whatever reason, whether it be religious or whatever, you took it upon yourself to kill innocent people, sometimes hundreds, if not thousands of people, depending on how severe the terrorist attack was. And you think that that person deserves to live? I think letting them live the rest of their life in prison, where taxpayers have to pay for their meals and the maintenance of the prison and all that stuff, that's easy. That's like heaven. That's not a problem. Okay, cool. They can't like watch TV. Well, unless you come to South African prisons where you can have cell phones and TV and all that stuff. But that's another story or a different debate. But my point is, you get to live the rest of your life, right? Basically being taken care of. You don't have to pay rent. You got food every day. Not the best food. It's not a 5-star restaurant, but it's something. No, you don't deserve life after killing innocent people. In some cases, children are victims in these attacks. Now, even the death penalty is nice, because sometimes with the death penalty, I don't know, I haven't read the details of this death penalty. I don't know if it's by lethal injection or electric chair. I think you should get the electric chair. I think it should be the most painful.
It's by
way.
hanging.
By hanging. Okay. Well, that's
old school. I like it.
Yeah, it's old school, but like most of the I don't know. I think if you have killed innocent people in the hundreds and thousands and children, you deserve to have a very slow, agonizing, painful death. And sometimes hanging can be slow and agonizing, but a lot of the times it's a quick and you're gone. I guess
maybe we should bring back crucifixion. Just throwing it out there.
Upside down crucifixion.
Yes, but I mean, on that, let's get. I'm not sure, Matthew, if you were listening to the conversation, but we are currently at the point where so many people are angry that Israel is proposing to bring the death penalty for terrorists, and they are making this out to be a racial thing, because they are associating a terrorist with, being a person that is not Israeli, or, whatever in their mind they are thinking. But firstly, let's ask, what is your take? Do you think this is a good call by Israel? And secondly, what do you have to say about how the media is distorting it?
Sure. So on the first point, I would say it is a good call. I can't really add much more than what Joe said, because ultimately, let's just look at the facts. If you go into a music festival and you rape women and you murder people, does that make you a terrorist? I think it does. And when you see these ridiculous headlines saying, oh, Israel will execute those they deem might be terrorists, I'm just thinking to myself, how loose is your definition of what a terrorist is? I mean, in my mind, it's not that hard. When you go and behead babies on a kibbutz, which literally happened, I mean, it's grotesque. That makes you a terrorist. And there are many other graphic examples one can give. So yeah, Ronaldo, just based on your first point, I think it's pretty clear. It's a good move. Also, kind of like Joe said, like, why should the taxpayers be paying, and keeping these people in prison for life when clearly they are so twisted in their way of thinking that, these are not rehabilitable people. It's not like, I don't know, some guy who stole oranges from ShopRite and is now stuck for a couple of years, a couple of months, and he'll learn his lesson. I mean, these are the darkest, most twisted people. So in my mind, hey, it makes a lot of sense. But Ronaldo, what was your second point? I've forgotten.
What do you think of mainstream media's influence and how they're trying to drive the narrative that this is a racial thing, when in actual fact, it's just for terrorists?
Yeah, so I don't quite know why I still have to explain this to people, but Palestine is not a race. I mean, I don't know. I feel like this is like specifically a South African thing, that for whatever reason, people have to define things by race. And it's not the ordinary South African. It's the politicians. It's the legacy media. I refuse to call them mainstream because ultimately they're getting phased out. But they seem to love this weird racial narrative. And even when I've spoken to certain other people overseas and people across the Middle East, none of them talk about it being a racial issue. It seems to be this weird South African media narrative. So yeah, I just think it's absolutely ridiculous. And the most ironic part for me is that they go and say, oh, Palestine needs to be its own country separate from Israel. Okay, so let's treat you as a separate country then. We'll create a border wall. We'll have checkpoints going in and out. Oh no, that's oppressive. Why should we have checkpoints and border walls? Well, because you said you wanted to be a separate place. And that same exact argument and hypocrisy comes here. You can't keep expecting to be treated the same as Israelis if you don't want to be the same country. I mean, really, it just continues the whole time.
And ultimately, to just end this discussion, because a lot of people that is critical of me and Joe and Matthew, and even the Truth Report will go and say, you guys are standing very hard for Israel. You are standing very hard for the United States. But here is my question to the people watching. Since 2005, over 20,000 rockets have been launched from Palestine into Israel. And then October 7th happened, where over 1,000 people were brutally murdered by somebody that was invading a sovereign nation. And then if you look at Iran, you can also argue that they killed over 30,000 of their own citizens. They have been threatening the United States. They have been threatening the sovereignty of other nations and threatened to release their nuclear arsenal on these countries. So if you want to lecture me that I'm for some reason on the wrong side, that I need you to explain to me how you are justifying, the laws against women and children in Iran, and how children can be forced into marriage from 8 years and 9 months if the people agree within the legal framework there. So ultimately, it's just that I'm looking at what is good and what is evil. And unfortunately for me, what Iran and what the Palestinians have been doing is pure evil. That is my takeaway from that. So I don't know if anybody wants to just quickly give an opinion on that, or if we can move to the next topic.
Yeah. Yes. So I just wanted to say you made a very valid point there, Ronaldo. And I think that just to elaborate, when you say if people don't like our stance or whatever, well, unfortunately, if people don't like our stance, you've got the whole host of legacy media, barring a few exceptions, because there are a few exceptions, but the whole lot of them who seem to run with the typical ANC narrative, you're not going to get this kind of a nuance on SABC, I can guarantee you. And then, of course, you've got a whole bunch of political parties, particularly on the left, that like to echo the sentiment as well. So in actual fact, I don't see why people would necessarily have a problem with our viewpoint, because you know what? At least for once, it's a little bit different to the outdated legacy media narrative.
Joe, anything from you?
Sorry, no, I agree with everything you said. You took the words right out of my mouth, so I have nothing to add.
All right, so moving on to another hot topic in South Africa, I see that Gayton Mckenzie is being accused of being a drug lord. I see that the MK party has called for Mckenzie's suspension, and they have asked Cyril Ramaphosa to suspend the sports, arts and culture minister relating to they are accusing the Patriotic Alliance leadership of having ties with drug cartels. So I think this all started with whispers on social media, and now political parties are getting involved. What is your take, gentlemen? Let's start with Joe on this, and then we can go to Matthew.
Yeah, so I don't know, man. Look, I have said this before on my show. I don't trust Gayton. I don't know why some people do. Ronaldo, you and I know two men who do, and I'm still wondering why whatever. I can understand why the one does, because Gayton has been outspoken about Israel and supportive of Israel. So maybe that's why. But even so, I mean, like, I don't know. I've never trusted Gayton from day one. There's something about him that I can't put my finger on it. I feel like he is in his element as a politician. I feel that line comes to him very easily as a politician, and
that's probably what it is. He's a politician.
Yeah, but even if he it's not just because he's a politician. It's also because of his history. Like I know what people are going to tell me. Supporters of Gayton say, "Yeah, but people change," and yeah, people do change. But is it really a leap from gangster to politician in South African context, right? I mean, you're just entering one of the biggest syndicates in South Africa. Like, it's not that much of a leap. And in my opinion, the ANC itself, or government in South Africa, is a corrupt institution, a syndicate. So maybe that's it. I don't trust the guy. So when this, what happened was that guy in prison, can't remember his name, was starting to accuse Mckenzie of still being part of gangsters, and he's a proxy and all that stuff. I was like, yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if it's true. I'm not saying it is. Allegedly, I have to say that because Gayton is now suing ENCA for that interview, which I don't think he will be successful in doing. I think he has to sue the guy who accused him. But anyway, got to be careful what I say. Gayton, I'm not calling you a gangster. Okay, I'm just saying I don't trust.
Allegedly. Just use the word allegedly, like mainstream media does. You can get away with anything.
I'm just saying I don't trust you. I'm sorry, and I've invited Gayton many times, not personally, but just like made public invitations saying, if Gayton wants to call on my show and try and change my mind, oops. Sorry about that.
Welcome back.
If Gayton wants to come onto my show and change my mind, he's more than welcome to. I'm open to chatting to him and hearing him out and all that stuff. But I mean, I'm not saying it is going to work. I'm going to ask him some tough questions, and maybe that's why he hasn't responded to me. I don't know. But yeah, I just don't trust the guy. This news is I'm keeping a close eye on this story, because I really want to see what comes of it, if anything does, although I doubt Gayton will be touched in any way. So yeah.
Matthew.
Sure. Well, so a lot to unpack there. I do have to point out something that Joe said that I think is very relevant, which is the fact that it's not such a big leap from alleged criminal to politician, just to be grammatically correct here. And we know that also just from, well, Kat Matlala, Madlanga Commission. Not to change the subject, but I'm sure some of you may be aware that there are those allegations about, let's just say, Action SA and the EFF in Tshwane. And so ultimately, just talking about all of those things without straying off topic, we know that there is that sort of a link. Now, unfortunately, there may be, look, I don't want to jump to conclusions. I don't have the full facts in front of me, but it's just not a good look, because already we saw how a little, over a few months ago, if not a year ago, Kenny Kunene, who's pretty much his right-hand man, was seen leaving the house of a certain alleged criminal. And then, of course, as Joe pointed out, you have Gayton's history, And so ultimately, even if he is completely innocent, even if everything's completely false, I think because of his track record and the perception, the public perception around him, I think that he's always going to have these doubts. People are always going to not entirely trust him or just downright distrust him. And yeah, unfortunately, I feel like it's already pretty much set in stone. The PA and Gayton are already viewed as the sort of gangster party, and allegedly, as Ronaldo advised us to say. And yeah, I just don't see how his reputation is ever going to be cleaned up.
Thank you for that. Joe, can you just scroll down a little bit with regards to what you just had on the screen in there? Because apparently it's from an individual called Jermaine Prim that has a lot of dealings. There we go. The move follows an interview with inmate Jermaine Prim, who alleged that Mckenzie sent 2 mobile phones to him while he was in prison. And then if you read this article further down, it actually talks about how he was sharing a cell with Kat Mklala, and then how it was... he alleges he has a voice recording linking Mckenzie to drug dealers and illicit funds, which is quite interesting. So this is the word of one individual, and now obviously the request is that this be investigated. I don't think that anybody will have an issue with this being investigated. Welcome back, Gareth. What is your take on if you're allowed, if you can speak now, on Gayton Mckenzie, and whether or not you think, I mean allowed, if you are able to, rather, on this specific topic. Don't forget to use the word alleged a lot, eh?
Yeah, I followed the story in a cursory manner, and I've got to tell you, like, if Gayton wasn't so charming, and if he wasn't one of those people who actually gets a few things done. He some of the things he gets done are terrific. I saw him at the Live Golf thing the other day, and he's the warmest, friendliest guy. And now they've signed on to come back for another 3 years. And I know he worked hard on that. But then you hear about like renaming Graaf Reinet, and you think, what's this guy doing? It's very difficult for us to try and think outside of good person, bad person. But unfortunately, that's how people are. They want to be able to either completely condemn someone for being an evil son of a bitch, or they want them to be among the angels. And Gayton has a very, very checkered and interesting past. He owns most of it. He's not ashamed of the fact that he did very bad things, had to mix with some very bad people, had some horrific experiences. And he's written about them, and he's talked about them, and he'll tell anyone who asks. This worries me for a number of reasons. I mean, obviously, as was just being said, the allegations are serious and must be investigated. There's no way we can just forgive him that because he's charming and he gets a couple of things done. I'm also concerned. I just have to say this because I saw a clip of Bukele of El Salvador this morning, where he was talking about how in his prisons there is no cell phone signal. The prisons do not have a cell phone signal. And I thought, well, what a simple solution to so many of the problems that we have in South Africa when it comes to organized crime. And we know a lot of the criminals are in jail and they all have phones. And why do we allow that? Why don't there is a way with MTN, Vodacom, Telkom to prevent signal from getting in or out. Why the hell do our prisoners communicate freely with the outside world and undoubtedly cause trouble as a result of that? If Bukele
Mm.
can do it in El Salvador, what's it? You're Vryheidsfront Plus. Speak to the corrections minister for us. Find out why
Well,
the
Gareth,
hell we have to have this.
No, I can report that there is a test pilot project currently running with 12 prisons in which this is being tested right now, and it will be on a full rollout relatively soon. So thank you
Good.
to Dr.
Great.
Pieter Groenewald.
Okay, great. I love Pieter Groenewald, and I know lots of people in this country do. But let's do that for starters. And frankly, there are people who know more about this story. I saw that it was reported by Heidi Jokos, who, she does some good stuff and some bad stuff. Again, it's all nuanced. And I see Yusuf Abramji talking about it. So it seems to me to be a certain kind of journalist who has access to this. Let's get some more information.
Fully agree. Any other contribution from you, Joe, or from Matthew?
Yeah, I just wanted to respond because I do see obviously the comment sections going off. One of the comments was, well, are we all angels here? And of course we're not. And we're not in any way saying, oh, he's an absolutely terrible person or absolutely great person. I think Gareth put it quite eloquently. But the reality on the ground is just back to what I was saying is when a person has a checkered past, people have their perceptions. Their perceptions get shaped. It's just human nature. First impressions count. And very often, if you're going to have, for example, Gayton being accused of something and, I don't know, a Helen Ziller being accused of something, people are just naturally going to assume, oh, Gayton's the guilty party. And I understand it's not fair. And of course, things need to be investigated. You can't, it's innocent until proven guilty. But ultimately, whether we like it or not, perceptions are shaped by a person's past. They're shaped by the kind of impression that is given. And of course, the surrounding circumstances don't help. And the flip-flopping of the PA in Parliament doesn't help. 1 minute they do fantastic things. Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
I reckon Helen is more gangster just by swimming in that pothole with her goggles on. She's more gangster than Gayton has been in years. So all credit to Helen. And I hardly ever say anything nice about the DA, but Helen, I'm a big fan. And I think she won so many people over. No ego, hey? I mean, most of the people in South African politics, they all have these extremely prickly, sensitive egos. And Helen doesn't. She'll get in a wetsuit and climb in a pothole. That's how much she cares about Joburg. Show me one politician in any other, even in her own party, who would do that. They wouldn't embarrass themselves. I love it.
I mean, I've got a love-hate relationship
Sorry,
with
I'm
Helen.
just going to point out here, someone says Crocozilla in the comments, which I love.
Crocozilla. All right, so let's move on. We've got 7 minutes left. Let's move on to the last story, which is what happened in Gogompo City. The reason they renamed it to Gogompo is because it's the sound that feces make when it hits the bottom of the toilet, the water. Yeah. Gogompo. And what you can see that happened in East London is that a peaceful march turned into a situation where over 10 taxis were burned and buildings started also being torched. And all of this, and I have to read this, this happened because local residents, traditional leaders, and civil society groups and some political figures marched against the reported installation or coronation of a Nigerian Igbo leader, Solomon Ogbonna Ezeko, as the chief by members of the local Nigerian community. So I'm assuming that this has got to do with the fact that people are not happy that Nigerians are creating a local Nigerian community and giving them titles. So let's start with Matthew on this one, and then Joe, and then Gareth.
First thing that came to mind, Ronaldo, is here we go again. Another story like this. But something I do have to point out is, you know what? I'm actually kind of glad about this name change. I think it's appropriate. And I know a lot of people are going to sound off on me, but you know what? If you told me this is going on in East London, I'd be a little bit embarrassed. But ridiculous, meaningless name like Kogompu, or however you say it, and this kind of behavior, you know what? It goes hand in hand. So if if this is now the quality of people who are there, you know what? Enjoy your new name, because clearly you're not deserving of the old one.
Mm.
Wow, shots fired there. Yo, wow, that's
Unapologetically, they can honestly, this is just disgusting behavior. And I understand there's an illegal foreigner issue, 100%. I'm on board with that. I get very upset with the DA when they try to like sweep it under the rug and call people xenophobic, because I think it's completely unfair that you call people xenophobic when there are so many illegals. But this kind of behavior is not on. Sorry.
Mm. Joe?
Yeah, like I'm still struggling to understand what the protest is about. Like it's just about a
So are the people
Nigerian
protesting.
king. Like I don't. I mean,
They don't know what's going. They don't listen. I mean, sorry to Joe. Today I'm just interrupting you. I apologize.
It's all right. Don't worry.
These are not people who have like deep political ambitions, or they have goals and dreams for their community. These are people who, when they see a whole bunch of other people running, they run. When they see a store being looted or a car being burnt, they go, well, why the hell not? Let's all join in. These are the lizard brain kicks in, and they do whatever everyone else is doing. This is not complicated. And it's the shithole syndrome, whether it's, the import of Nigerian illegal immigrants into the country or not, which I do think is a thing. And I think our local people in South Africa, all citizens of this country, are sick to death of having to pay more, having to see neighborhoods go backwards, having to see services getting worse. And illegal immigrants who come from even worse places than South Africa are coming here and taking advantage of that. I think that is a real thing. And they can't understand or express that emotion properly because they're in survival mode. These are not people who are intellectualizing every argument. They're sitting there going, good Lord, my life is absolutely abominable. I have nothing to eat. My children are growing up in human shit down the sides of the street. And when I get the excuse to like let a little rage out, I'm going to do it. And in a place like East London, which has just gone from bad to worse. I mean, I joke about the Eastern Cape. I say very rude things about the Eastern Cape, all of which they deserve. But that city is just a disaster. The last time I was there was probably 10 years ago. And I remember I'd been going consistently every year for 10 years before that. And the city of East London still had a charm. Very beautiful place, very green. The people are happy and friendly. The place was mostly neat and tidy. There were some very, very wealthy neighborhoods in East London. And the last time I went 10 years ago, there was a central square that you have to drive through to get everywhere, especially from the airport to anywhere else. And the place looked like Lagos. And that's not a compliment. There was rubbish strewn everywhere. There were only takeaway places. There were cars parked in like places where you're not meant to park cars. Everyone was hooting. There was loud music. There was people like buying like street meat on the side of it just looked like I'd gone to Mogadishu. And suddenly I thought, you know what? I don't need to be back here ever again in my life. And I've stuck to that. I just wish good people who live in East London, get the hell out. You have no business being there. The place is now like that city that the orcs took over in Lord of the Rings. And there were more ruins than there were buildings standing on each other. It's just shit. And this is not about poverty or whiteness or blackness or anything else. The place is just absolutely gone. There is nothing to save in East London. So if you have any self-respect, and I mean this for all good South Africans, whether you live in a township or you live in a suburb or you have a business or you don't, get out. You have no business being there anymore. Let it go. Let it deteriorate even further. You cannot save East London. Let it be called Kugompo, which is an appropriate name for it.
Before, there's a comment there addressing for me to finish my sentence. Just want to say, I don't mind that Gareth interrupts. I really don't. It's not a thing. Like I totally respect Gareth, and our time with him is valuable. So I really don't mind. I don't care. Ronaldo interrupt me. It doesn't matter. I'm here for fun, guys. I'm here to like have a conversation. Anyway, just to finish my thought, like I was saying, I still don't get, like, because I'm used to like protests and stuff like that in South Africa, at least, about service delivery, load shedding, so on and so, crime, whatever. GBV. A Nigerian king? I'm confused. What did he do? Is it okay? Fine, xenophobic, but really, we're burning cars and destroying a city because of an alleged Nigerian. It's very confusing, and I guess it goes to what Gareth was just ranting about, which I agree with. So yeah, that's my take.
Also, we got to stop importing. We got to stop importing bad cultural practices. Like, not all cultures are equal, and Nigerian kings shouldn't be being crowned in the Eastern Cape. If you're a king in Nigeria, go to Nigeria and be a king. You can't be a king of Nigeria in the Eastern Cape. They have one king, Dalian Diebo, who's an alcoholic, who's joined every political party as the wind changed. We've already got a king. We don't need an Igbo king in South Africa. There's no reason for you to exist here.
But maybe it's the little city of Nigeria. Maybe it's like the new Nigeria. You know, like they've created like a new
in Nigeria.
little...
You can't have a king. Like, you come to South Africa, you become South African. You've got to give up on your king. You've got to give up on your language. You've got to give up on your culture. Sure, you can teach your children. You can do it around the kitchen table. But when you are in South Africa, live according to South African rules. If I moved to America, you better believe I would have to follow American rules. That is what immigrants and immigrants have to learn. You have to learn to
But we
assimilate
are a rainbow
into the
nation,
culture.
Gary. We're a rainbow nation.
Oh, please, man. The Igbo king. Do me a favor. You wouldn't know this. If you walked past this guy in Checkers, you wouldn't know he was, well, Your Majesty. Can you please get out of the way so I can get to the chicken fillet? Please, for the love of God. This is not...
The Nigerian High Commission in Pretoria clarified that no official coronation occurred. It was a cultural celebration by the Nigerian Citizens Association with no political or territorial claims. They stated it was misinterpreted and expressed regret for the tensions. So they are pretty much,
this whole story is just
I'm with Indy LWTH 2327. Indy in the comments who says we should also have a no kings protest. The woke Dems in the US will probably think they're opposing Trump, though. I'll tell you what we'll do. We'll do a swap. We'll do a swap. And by the way, I've got to tell you this. The Nigerian population in America are the most successful per capita population in the US, all right? So when we talk about immigrants and, they're always the downtrodden and the poor and the bleeding and the hungry and the people that the Statue of Liberty supposedly cries out to, the Nigerians in America are hugely successful. They punch well above their weight. They have formed extraordinary economic bonds in America and have done very, very well. And they're not trying to cause trouble or celebrate some king. They're assimilating, which is the key ingredient to making your country of choice, because that's what you do when you leave the country of your birth and you go somewhere else. You need to assimilate. That's the reason you moved there. You thought it was superior. So you assimilate into the superior culture. These Nigerians in the Eastern Cape, obviously they have no idea. These are the dumbest Nigerians, immigration Nigerians anywhere in the world, because they chose the crappiest province in South Africa. And now they're trying, because they look around and they just see devastation and destruction and Mordor all around them. They go, oh, we better bring back some Nigeria. Let's crown our king.
I bet you anything that a whole bunch of them, if not most of them, are illegal. I bet you anything.
Of course they are. Of course they are. Someone says here, please speak to that guy. Is he the father of the prince who's related to me and needs 200 euros for him to transfer my inheritance?
That comment wins the internet of the day. All right, gentlemen, we're already 5 minutes over 1 o'clock. I'll give each of you a minute to wrap up. Let's start with you, Joe, and then Gareth, and then with Matthew.
Well, there's not much to say except for thanks, Ronaldo, for hosting. And yeah, remember, guys, we do this every week on a Tuesday at 12 p.m. Different guests, different panelists, different topics. If you want to catch what I'm up to recently, go to my YouTube channel, Newsflash with Joe Emilio. Recently won an award for my documentary, Stolen Ground. If you haven't seen it, please go check it out on my YouTube channel, Stolen Ground. Is the documentary's name. Other than that, gents, it was a lovely conversation, and yeah, can't wait for the next one.
Thanks, Gareth.
I've said enough. I stole way too much of everyone else's time.
Cancel culture is coming again, buddy. Cancel culture is coming again. Matt.
No, it's a pleasure as always. Thanks for having me on, especially on this esteemed panel. It's always nice to be able to have a little bit of an occasional unpacking of what's going on, and one that's not filtered by the SABC and every other old legacy media outlets out there. And yeah, we can definitely have that No Kings protest. The only requirement is that I bring a Venezuela flag. Gareth will come with an Iranian flag. Ronaldo, you'll bring the Palestinian one. Joe, you'll be
I want to wear the
EFF.
pride
And in the
flag.
minute, yeah, okay, yeah, you can bring. Okay, sorry, Joe, bring the pride flag. Not the EFF one. And then as soon as a reporter asks us why we're there, we just tell them fascism.
Love it.
Simple as that. All right, and from
Simple
my
as that.
side, everybody, thank you so much for tuning in. I see that we clocked over 800 people on this live stream. Be sure to smash the like button. Be sure to subscribe to this channel. It's greatly appreciated. And you can just find me on RENALDO GOUWS on all social media platforms. But thank you for tuning in. And like Joe said, we are here every single Tuesday at 12 o'clock. Set a reminder and join us every single Tuesday. Thanks, gentlemen. Have a lovely day. And we catch all of you again real soon. Till later. Cheers and peace out.
Thank you.